What is your name?
Marion Intractor.
And where are you from?
I was born in Germany, in Stuttgart.
Oh. How long did you live in Germany?
Until I was 10 years old.
Did you go to school there?
Yes, I did. I went to a residential school. It was the Israeli Institute for the Deaf.
And that was in Germany?
It was in Berlin, Germany.
Oh, in Berlin. And you still remember the German language?
Oh, no.
You've forgotten, huh?
Not really. I've forgotten it because I was separated from my parents for 6 years, and I was required to use English all the time.
I see. Well, how did you move from Germany to wherever?
Well, let's see. Let me start at the beginning. My parents owned their own business in textiles. They manufactured clothing and had a very large company. The Gestapo wanted to arrest my father and put him in jail. But both my parents decided to escape to the United States. Of course, I didn't know about that.
This is while you were in school?
Yes, I was away at school. They wanted to run away with my sister and my brother. But they were worried about me. They had a daughter in Berlin. You know, from Berlin to Stuttgart is an 11-hour train ride.
Wow.
So I only got to go home during the holidays, like Christmas and Passover, and during summer vacations. So they didn't know how to reach me. They called Dr. Reich, the principal of the school, and let him know that they wanted to take me to run away. But Dr. Reich pointed out it was impossible because it would take 11 hours to get me there. He told my parents not to worry, that he would get me out of the country, but he didn't know where. So my family escaped to the United States. And Dr. Reich decided to take a group of 10 children, aged 3 to 11, in this first group. Later, he would take another group.
And you were in the first group?
Yes, I was in the first group, and there would be a second and a third group of refugees later. They couldn't take all of us at the same time. And they were going to take us away to England. We never heard of that country, England. And so we were told about that country. And finally we got on a train and went to Holland, and then got on a ship to go to England. This was before the war started. It was July of 1939. The war started in September, on September 3rd of 1939. It was a good thing because I was out of the country. Anyway, we got on a ship, and it should have been just a day's travel, but it took 5 days because we had to make sure that we wouldn't get captured. We got to England, and we were sent to a school for the deaf in London, the London School for the Deaf. On September 3rd, war broke out, and England was being bombed. The Germans were trying to capture England. But England fought back, and they didn't succeed. But the Germans did capture Poland and Russia and France, Austria. But England was strong and defended itself. But the bombing continued. It was terrible. I saw many people die.
You remember all this?
Oh, yes, I remember it very well. Many people died during the bombing. So the decision was made that it would be better to move us to the Brighton School for the Deaf, where they had both Gentile and Jewish children in the same school, but the Jewish children ate separately because they needed kosher food. There were about, I think, 43 or 45, maybe 40 deaf children that were Gentiles, and the Jewish group, about 35 children. It was a smaller group. The bombing continued.
And you remember the feeling? Could you hear the bombs, or?
Oh, no, I couldn't hear it.
I mean, did you feel the vibrations?
Oh,
and
yes.
Did you see them falling?
Oh, yes. You could see the explosions. One day, we were walking to Brighton Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way, we saw huge rolls of barbed wire.
Yes.
It was trying to protect us from the Germans. And there were mines placed along there with warning signs, do not enter. There were some children, not in our group, who ignored the signs and ran toward the beach and were killed by mines. So we had to be really careful when we saw that happen. It was felt that Brighton was not a safe place to be because the Germans were trying to capture England, so we were moved to the country, to a farming area. We were at Havering House. It was a hotel for very wealthy people, but it was converted into a dormitory for children.
Oh, changed.
And there was no bombing going on there because Germany was not interested in the farming area. They were concentrating the bombing on London and the big cities.
They didn't want to do the outlying areas.
Right, not in the country. So we stayed there for 4 years. The education that we got there wasn't really wonderful. We had to knit clothing for the soldiers. We had to make hats and scarves and gloves and socks. So we spent a lot of time knitting for the soldiers.
Wow.
We knitted every day. And the boys had to work out in the garden and raise potatoes, tomatoes, vegetables, and fruit, and so on.
For food, yeah.
Our education took place in the morning between 9 and 12. That was it.
That's pretty good.
In the afternoon, we had to do our chores. There was a lot of work for us to do, and the food wasn't wonderful either. But we were safe there. In 1943, well, I had asked about my parents, and no one knew where they were. I wondered where my brother and sister were also. In 1943, the Red Cross found my parents and my brother and sister. They were in the United States, and I received a letter from them. I was so surprised. I was thrilled to hear from them. The letter told me to come to the United States right away, but the school wouldn't let me go because of the war. It was 1943, and they were afraid that the ship would be sunk. I had to stay until the end of the war. So finally, in 1944, when the war was coming to an end, they decided to give me some examinations. I didn't understand why, but they explained that the United States required academic tests. I didn't understand that. Why couldn't I just go to the United States? And they explained to me that America didn't accept handicapped people.
What?
Handicapped people were not accepted. Blind, deaf people, people who were crippled, could not go into the country. And that was why we had to go to England first, because England was open to everyone. So I understood better why I had to take these tests. The United States wanted to be sure that I had a good education, so I had to take all of these examinations. And I passed with flying colors, all of them. They wanted to know what I would do in the United States. So I wasn't finished with school. I was only 15. My father was very clever, and he told them that I would be working on a farm.
In what place?
In the United States.
In California?
Well, he didn't say where. He just said a farm in the United States. And they took me because they needed more farm workers. So in January of 1945, when things weren't so bad with the war, it was winding down, I came to the United States. But I couldn't let the other children know that I was leaving the next day. The very last minute, the night before, they told me to get ready, but they kept it quiet because they didn't want anyone to tell on me. So I went with the teacher and was taken to London and Liverpool and got on a ship. It took a month to cross. I was actually on a warship.
A month?
Yes, 1 month. I was with military personnel and the armed services people and a few children on the boat with me. There were just 4 of us. I was 15, there was a 16 and a 17 and I think an 18-year-old.
So they kept you company?
Yes, they really took care of me because I was deaf. Everyone was very nice to me. I saw many mines in the ocean as we were crossing. It was really awful. I was so frightened. That's why it took a month, because we had to constantly watch out for mines. My dream was to see the Statue of Liberty. I always wanted to see that on our arrival, but we had to divert the ship and ended up in Canada. We had to go to Halifax. I found out why the waters were not safe, and they were afraid we might be sunk by a mine. So we had to go to Halifax, and I was watching and watching for the Statue of Liberty. I never got to see it. They said, no, you're not going to see it. We have to go to Halifax instead, in Canada. Oh. We arrived in Halifax. I was really disappointed because I was hoping to see the statue. And then I took a train to New York and met my parents.
Oh, you saw your parents.
My mother was so glad to see me. She said that she really missed me since I was little, and now I was 15.
5 years?
Yes, it was 5 years. I had grown up. I was a big girl now. We hugged each other. I was so happy to see them again.
Wow, wow. Did you have trouble getting food? Did you have any experience with rationing?
Oh, yes. You mean in England? Yes.
Yes.
Of course, the school was responsible for the food, but we were limited in what we could get. Milk, sugar, eggs was rationed. We couldn't get meat. We never had chicken. I don't really know why, but it was very tough. We ate lots of vegetables and fruit. Things like that. We just didn't get very much.
And when you came to Canada, and then you arrived in America, did they quickly give you rationing coupons or anything like that?
Well, yes. My mother took care of that. That was still going on in 1945.
You were 15, so did you feel the limitations much?
Well, not really, because I appreciated being here. We had more food.
life was a big change for you.
Yes, yes. We had more food than we had in England. We had bananas, chocolate, honey, and things like that were really limited in England. So I really appreciated the food here.
It must have been great for you. I can understand that. Then did you go to the deaf school here?
Yes, I went to the Lexington School for the Deaf.
It was an oral school, wasn't it?
Yes, Lexington is oral. Of course, I grew up being educated in the oral method. In Germany and in England also.
They were oral?
Yes, they were all oral. And then the Lexington School.
So where did you learn sign language?
Well, I learned sign language here. Of course, it was not in the classroom. Outside of class, everyone would teach me signs when no one was looking. And so I learned signs. And I learned finger spelling, too.
Now, your parents, they were saved from the German experience. They lived here, and they never went back?
Yes, they were safe. My father refused to go back to Germany. I visited Germany again in 1977. I wanted to see the place where I used to live, and I took films of places in Germany, and I brought it back. My mother was gone at that time, but I wanted to show the movie to my dad, and my father refused to watch it. He wanted nothing to do with it.
I don't blame him.
So I put it away, and he never got to see it. My mother was killed.
I remember at the time I saw you when you were talking about your mother who was killed on the train, or
Yes.
the subway.
Yes, a subway train.
How did that happen?
Oh, you don't know how it happened? Well, let me tell you, my mother had gone to a doctor's appointment for a foot problem. I was living in California at that time.
I remember.
She went to the doctor, and my father had told her not to take the subway because my mother had a problem with her eye. She had had some surgery on her eye, and my father told her to use the bus instead, going to and from the doctor's office. Apparently, my mother was late, so she decided to use the subway.
So what happened?
Well, the door to the subway, as she was trying to go out, her foot got caught, and she was stuck, and the train started to move and pulled her 500 feet, and she was killed. My father, of course, was very upset.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
In a state of panic, he moved to California and lived with me.
Oh, I see. Well, now, did you ever work in the defense industry here?
No, I was too young at that time.
Right, you were young. So you went to school here in California? No, never did.
No, I didn't. I went to the Lexington School and graduated from there after a year and a half. And then I went to high school at George Washington High School. And I was there for 4 years. That was really tough for me because they didn't have interpreters then. Everything was done by writing on paper. I would write notes to the teacher and do my homework on paper. It was really tough. Today things are much better because students have interpreters now. And I'm really thankful that students have interpreters now because we didn't have that in my day.
Yes.
It was really tough.
You're right.
Anyway, I graduated from high school and then went to business school to learn key punch.
Oh, key punch, yeah.
I learned that for 6 months, and then I worked for an insurance company for 2 years. And then I came to California for a vacation, and I absolutely fell in love with California. So I told my mother I wasn't coming back. She was worried about my job, and I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll find a job here easily." She wanted to be sure, and I did, in fact, immediately find a job. And the business I worked for closed, and I was laid off, and then I went to work at UCLA, and I worked there for a long time.
Oh, I see. Now, your brothers and sisters, what's happened with them? They still in America?
Oh, yes. My sister lives in Maryland. She's married and has a family, and my brother lives here in Beverly Hills.
What if you had a deaf baby? What would you want to suggest to your child? An oral school, a residential school? What would you say?
Oh, I would put a child in a residential school because I think they would feel much more comfortable there than being in a mainstream public school where they might feel very isolated and out of place. It's better for them to be with other deaf students and learn to speak and lip read too.
Well, nowadays, you know, the culture is very different than it used to be in our day.
Oh, yes.
What I mean is our deaf culture, before the war as compared to after the war. And I wonder if you would give some advice to some younger people today about what they might or should do with their lives. Like, should they finish school, what they should do?
Well, things were very different a long time ago, and I think students need to go to high school and college today.
I agree.
They need to have a degree because they can get a better job. In my day, it was much different. A long time ago, you didn't need that.
I bet you that your life now must seem wonderful to you, so much better than your time when you were growing up.
Oh, of course. I'm very happy here, and I'm very proud of the United States. I'm married and live here with my husband. I'm very proud of this country. No matter how bad things get, even with all the violence that we have, I'm really very proud to be here.
What do you do now, Marion?
Oh, I'm retired now.
And?
I work for...
What is that?
Let's see, the Senior Citizen Group at Temple Beth Solomon of the Deaf.
TBS, that's how you sign that?
Yes, that's right. We abbreviate it TBS.
I see, TBS.
It looks nice that way when we sign it that way. I'm responsible with the recreation program for the senior citizens. I plan field trips.
What kind of trips?
Well, like we might go on a tour of a museum. We go to the circus.
There's so many different signs for circus.
Right. Let's see. We also went to the Department of Water and Power.
Oh.
They explained to us how to save water.
Oh, how to save water.
They even told us that it was okay to drink tap water, that we don't need to use bottled water. They told us that the water's very safe.
Gee, I don't think so. Really?
Well, you don't think so?
I'm afraid to drink it. I can see my flowers grow just fine, though, so I guess it's okay.
Well, they said it was very safe. And they explained about the different kinds of equipment that they have. And
You think you'll go there again, maybe in another time?
oh,
next year?
possibly, if the people want to go back there. We have lots of different tours to different places, and the people enjoy them very much. We have speakers. Someone spoke on earthquakes.
Oh, earthquakes.
Yes, and we also had someone from the Department of Water and Power come and speak to us.
You mean they come to TBS
Yes,
and give a lecture with an
Yes.
interpreter?
right. We always have an interpreter all the time. And we also had a mature driver's course, safe driving for people over 55. Do you know what I mean?
No.
If you're over 55,
Uh-huh.
you can get a discount on your insurance.
Really? Really?
Yes, 5% discount by taking a safe driving class. It's called Mature Drivers. Someone comes from the AARP
Mm-hmm.
and they give an 8-hour course on safe driving. All of the different traffic laws and what to do in different situations.
They give you a test?
No, there's no test. You do maybe take notes or write some things out, but it's a lecture for people over the age of 55.
Now, do you have to still take your test for your driver's license?
Well, it's not required for that course.
But if your license expires, you still have to go, right?
Oh,
with
yes.
With this AARP thing, does it make a difference?
Well, they explain everything to you, and then you get a certificate after the 8 hours are completed, and you send that to your own insurance company.
Oh.
And then they give you the 5% discount.
Oh,
5 or 10% discount.
I got it.
And you can do that every 3 years. And so mine expires in January of 1998. And so we'll have them back again. I think it's really worthwhile. And it's enjoyable. I enjoy helping the senior citizens.
Do you?
Oh, I like it very much. It's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it.
Do people bring their own brown bag lunches?
Yes.
So you don't serve lunch?
Well, they sell coffee.
Oh, at TBS?
Coffee and cake, that's all.
Uh-huh.
No other food. People have to bring their own sandwiches, brown bag it, but they can pay for coffee.
That's a little different from what the women's club did, right?
Yes, it is different.
I see. So when the people come to TBS and I call it a club, it's really kind of a club, don't you think? It's not like you have rules of parliamentary procedure, but you just use their hall and then you pay for admission?
Well, we're under the temple's auspices, so we use the facilities free.
But they're not members of the temple, are they?
What do you mean?
Well, the people who go there, they're not members of Temple Beth Solomon. They can still come?
Oh, yes. They just pay 50 cents to come in as members of the senior citizens group. And we give out prizes and things like that. People really enjoy it. It used to be a small group of people, but now we have 75 people coming. We get about 75 every week. We play cards, do different things like that. We play poker, military 500, follow the dollar, dingo.
What is that?
Dingo.
Oh.
Every Wednesday we do that. And unless we have a tour.
What time does it start?
From 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And we usually finish around 3:30, and that's when the games are over. People look very happy when they're there. They really can't wait to come on Wednesday.
That's great. Are there many new faces there?
Oh, yes, especially out-of-towners who come here on vacation. They're introduced to each other and make new friends. It's really nice for them.
Does anyone ever bring deaf children?
Oh, no, not children. It's not on Wednesday. It's for senior citizens.
Only seniors.
You know, if they bring children, I can't do anything about it.
So they don't have a child care place for them?
No, no place for them. We really ask people not to bring children. Children can have fun by themselves going to camp or playgrounds. This is the senior citizens' time to have fun with each other.
Yeah. I really want to say to you, Marion, how deeply I appreciate so much your story. It's just unbelievable.
Thank you.
It really struck me and touched my heart. I'm so glad that you spoke so openly about your life and everything that happened to you. My gosh. Oh.
You're very welcome.